is becoming available on Spotify. I hope you get a chance to listen to it. We're going to look inside the box, and I have an upcoming podcast that talks in more detail about the process that brought this work to life. But right now, we're going to be in studio together, and we're going to take a look at the piece itself and a couple of structural elements that I thought would be fun to share. So, taking a look here, I'm in Finale, which is my notation software, and we're going to take a quick look at each of the sections. And as these sections unfold, you'll have little hooks that you can listen for. So this piece is in 6 parts. In a prior sitting, I talked about it being in 7/8 and why 7/8 was significant. This is derived from the biblical account of the creation of the earth and connecting it into the larger pulsed the planets. Here we have the start of the piece, and I'll just give you a snippet of it, and what you're going to hear is the sound that comes from the synthesized noises. This is how I compose. This is what I hear when I'm composing. Then when you compare this with what you're going to hear in the live version, you'll hear a big difference when humans bring it to life. But let's just start off. So 6 sections, but it's really in 7 sections. In this piece, I'll explain. In the biblical account in Genesis, we see when the earth is created, that account reveals many of the features that are distinctive about our home world and written in a time well before modern astronomy. But some of the aspects that are so central to life on Earth, water and the proliferation of the creatures, it's all laid out there. And that's depicted in the music day by day. So there are 7 sections, but the 7th section is a peculiar one because if you read in that opening account of Genesis, the account notes that God rested on the 7th day. That's why we have a Sabbath, why there's a notion of a weekend and rest on the weekend. It really comes from that in the Western tradition. And that rest would be silence at the end of this piece. So there's 6 days of busy work, and then there would be about a minute and a half of silence at the end of the piece, and that would make it a 7-section piece. Now in practice, a recording is not going to include that silence. I could have made that choice, but it did not. It's more conceptual. So the 6 days are what we hear here. And it opens with the bursting forth of excitement and life on day 1. Okay, so that's music that opens the piece. That's day 1. And that we're going to call our A music. That's A. A comes back 3 times, or 2 more times. It's 3 total times across the 6. So that's A. And you hear that for the first 48 bars. And then we hear B, which is the day where the water is created. And the water is separated into water above and water below. And you actually see in the music how it's flowing, and there's lots of lines that connect across. There's a little bit of a trick here where the accompanying music, the music in the low strings, which is the water below, and the water above is the woodwinds, which you see literally above. In the middle is the breaking of the space between the two, and it's very flowing. But they are 7-note groups, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And this happens throughout. So there's this 7 notes in 6/8, and it offers this very undulating sound. And this is the B section. This is day 2. So let's just take a quick listen to day 2. So now you hear how the music is separating above and below, and in the middle there's that space where the air is created. So that's a B. That's B. We heard A, which was the bursting forth of light from darkness. B, that's the waters being separated. Let's take a listen to C, and C is where life starts to happen. And let's just take a listen here. In this section, just did a little bit of quick checking to make sure, but this is where now that the waters have been separated, the dry land appears, and what happens on the dry land? But the plants start to spring up, so you hear them sprouting up, and the dry land comes, and the water sprouts, and this is our C section of music here. Okay, so that section, you can hear the plants and the life springing up out of the ground. That's our C section. So we've had A, B, and C, days 1, 2, and 3. Day 4 is where it gets fun with the connection to Holst's the planets, because in the day 4 account, God creates the lights of the heaven to be signs. And the planets themselves, and in fact, Holst's treatment of the planets is astrological, meaning signs in the sky. And this is the passage in Genesis that talks about the creation of all the lights in the heavens that will be signs. And so a nod to connecting Holst's the planets, which is astrological, with this account, you hear quotes of all of the planets from Holst. And this piece is designed to be the last piece on a concert that would include Holst the planets. And so I'll skip ahead. It starts here with a recurrence of that opening music, that A section. And here, and I'll keep playing, here it starts and you hear that opening music of Mars. If you're familiar with the Holst, you know how the Mars passage goes. And then it goes through all the rest of the planets as they appear in concert in order: Mars, Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. And we go through all those quotes, and that's the heavens, the lights of the heavens. Now we get to day 5, and we see the waters start to swarm with all the living creatures. And that, let's go to measure 193. I even marked in the score, you can see these double bars that are indicators that where each day passes and where you're into the next day. So you can't hear the double bar, but the players would be able to see that, and the conductor would know these are the sections. And what comes back then is that C music. So we heard the day light created, the water separating, we heard the sprout of vegetation and life from the earth, we heard the lights of the heavens being created, the planets, and for signs of the times. Now we're back to the coming forth of all the crawling creatures on the earth, living creatures. So now the animals are going to be created, and it builds on the plant theme, and it starts to get a little bit more expansive. And this is that C music. Let's just take a quick listen. So all of the creatures, and in this later section, you actually hear the birds start to be created and they start chirping. So after that starts. So that's the first 5 days. The 6th day of creation is the day that is the creation of all of the livestock, basically everything that would support human beings. So the creation of agriculture and all the instruments of sustainment for humankind, and then man being created as well, male and female. And that's that 6th section. And so here we have a reappearance of the A music. So musically, we've got a symmetry where we went from A, B, C, A, C for more creatures, and then back to A. So the creation of light, now the creation of mankind. We who would name the lights of the heavens, who would give the planets their names, this is the day. And the music comes back triumphantly with the creation of humanity. And there it is. And then the music continues. So the structure in 6 parts, following the 6 days of the account of the creation of everything in Genesis 1, and you follow in the music. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of a roadmap to listening to Terra, and it's going to be releasing shortly. And I hope you take some time to check it out. And please do reach out to me on my social media channels or directly through an email to salutations@gustavhoyer.com. If you enjoy these videos, if you have questions for me about the compositions that I'm sharing or the process or anything else, it's my pleasure to share the world of orchestral music as I encounter it as an artist. And thank you for taking time to join me in this short video.